it's Prime with Iron Octopus Fitness, and today is another Technique Tuesday. We are going to talk about the push-up because it seems like a really accessible exercise, and it can be. There are lots of nuances to it. Let's talk about the push-up. So the very first thing I want to talk about is your arm placement with push-up. Believe it or not, I used to teach middle school PE, and one of the most common mistakes that you see made with push-ups for people that aren't trained on how to do them properly is that their arms are out in a T, like this. My arms are making a T with my body. There's a 90-degree angle in my armpit here, and this is really not great for your shoulder. It's just like a fuck ton of pressure on your shoulders. When we're doing push-ups, the first thing I want you to remember, instead of having your arms form a T or your upper arms form a T with your body, you really want to be closer to forming a W. My arms are kind of forming this W shape. The idea here is to keep your elbows close. But for a traditional push-up or a traditional press-up, you want to have W's, not T's. If you're out here doing it like this, you're gonna have to fix it. And if you've done push-ups like this your whole life, you might find that doing them like this is really difficult. So you're gonna have to make some modifications. The second thing I wanna talk about is what's happening with your back. So primarily we think of push-ups as a chest exercise, an anterior deltoid exercise, and they are, but a lot of stuff has to happen in your back in order to, again, protect your shoulders and make sure that you're targeting the correct muscles in your chest. So for a lot of us, like, we just do push-ups and we don't really consider too much of what's happening in our back. And what that causes oftentimes is like our shoulders to creep up towards our ears or our backs to kind of round like this. And we really don't want that. It was your serratus, which is down here, and then your lats. They do need to be involved in a push-up in order to protect your shoulders. So here my shoulders are just hanging out. Before I do any pressing, I'm gonna set them down. And what I'm really doing is engaging this lat muscle and these serratus muscles. I'm imagining that I am squeezing something in between my arm and the side of my body, kind of in my armpit. Like, pretend you're making orange juice. So there's an orange there and you're trying to squeeze the juice out of that orange without actually bringing your arm closer to your body. And then you're gonna squeeze your shoulder blades together a little bit, which should pop your chest out just a tiny bit. We're not arching through our back, but we're setting down and then squeezing our shoulders together so that we're now engaging these muscles and then also these muscles back here in your upper middle back. A friend of mine's cue is always to imagine that you're squeezing a $100 bill in between your shoulder blades. Like, you want to hold on to it tight. So you're making orange juice and holding on to a $100 bill. So we've talked about creating tension in our lats and serratus, and then also in our upper back, and creating tension by like holding our arms in the right place. So once I've created that tension in my shoulders and back, I want to keep that tension. So what I'm gonna do is actually screw my arms into the ground. It's going to allow me to keep the tension that I've created along the side of my body and into my upper back. Before I do my press up or even get into position, and you can try this with things like planks too, I'm gonna actually screw my arms into the ground. My hands don't move, but I'm kind of twisting at my wrists and like screwing up into my shoulder socket so that my elbow pits face forward a little bit more. And that's going to allow you to keep the tension that you want to keep. The last step to getting a really good push-up or press-up is what you're doing with your core. As we go down into our press-up, we tend to get this little arch right here, and we really want to avoid that. So where I go into my full press-up, I'm actually going to tuck my pelvis down so that I am not necessarily rounding up through my lower back, but I'm tilting my belly button towards my chest a little bit, and that's going to engage the inner core muscles that I really, really want to work, the TVA and things like that. If you want to do press-ups or push-ups and you want to add them into your training, that's really awesome and you absolutely should. However, keep in mind that even though it's a body weight exercise, it can be super challenging for lots of reasons. So if you want to make adjustments to your push-ups, but you want to continue building strength in a long lever push-up all the way up on your toes like this, the thing to do is to elevate your hands. So if I'm having trouble doing long lever push-ups off the ground, I'm just going to elevate my hands. I might elevate them onto a bench, I might elevate them onto a counter, I might even use the wall, and all of those things are okay as long as I remember my form through all of the 4 pieces that I talked about. Sometimes push-ups bother people's wrists. We're gonna put our wrists in a place where a position where they're as straight as possible. So a lot of times when we do push-ups, right, we get this shape in our wrists, and some of us can handle that and put stress on our wrists there and it's not a big deal, and some of us can't. Inclining your push-ups helps a lot because when you're inclined and holding on to something, it makes it easier for you to keep this straight angle in your wrist. The other option is if you want to do them off the ground, dumbbell or 2 dumbbells, and you're going to use them like handles. So you just put them on the ground, and when you hold on to them, it's keeping my wrist straight here rather than forcing me to crank it back so that I can do my push-ups. So that's a push-up. It's a really great exercise. It's not exactly entry level because there are difficulties that come with doing a push-up. As long as you remember to do all 4 of those setup steps properly, you'll get all of the full body work that you want out of your push-up. So have fun.